president has offered both his hands in a most unorthodox attempt at seeking peace by appointing significant positions in his cabinet to former socialist militants, while simultaneously engaging a panel of seasoned negotiators to continue the dialogue with the rebel talking heads abroad of the itinerant communists and with the rebels of the Bangsamoro MILF and MNLF. Here's the story.
The Philippines is a country made up of different cultures and religions. This diversity has created a vibrant Filipino culture. However, this has also given birth to some of the longest-running conflicts, not just in the country, but the world. One of them is the long-running feud between the Philippine government and Maoist-inspired insurgents that began as early as 1968, when literature professor Jose Maria Sison, along with several student revolutionaries, decided to create an underground political organization called the Communist Party of the Philippines.
This party is supposed to be the standard bearer of the working class, which is that class that is the most progressive, productive, and political force in the Philippines.
The New People's Army was formed in 1969. The CPP's political arm slated to engage in an armed struggle with government troops. In 1973, the Communist Party of the Philippines was completed with the formation of the National Democratic Front, which is made up of a coalition of left-leaning political parties, trade unions, and other allied groups. The NDF also serves as the negotiating panel of the communists. The previous 5 administrations have exerted their own efforts in attempting to put an end to the conflict, but peace talks and ceasefire agreements would immediately be derailed by opposing beliefs and other disagreements. After much persuasion, then Davao Mayor Rodrigo Duterte finally made a decision to gun for the highest position in the land. This made everyone, including Muslim and communist rebels, to look forward for the promised change that was to come. Newly hailed President Rodrigo Duterte did not disappoint during his first State of the Nation address, where he declared a unilateral ceasefire with the Reds.
To the CPP, NP-NDF, let us end these decades of ambuscades and skirmishes. We are going nowhere, and it is getting bloodier by the day.
Before the first round of talks scheduled on August 22, 2016 in Oslo, Norway, the government and communist rebels had a few disagreements that would serve as signal that their unpredictable relationship still remains despite the change in administration. One is a deadly clash that ensued between government troops and the NPA in Surigao del Norte, killing one rebel group member. The government and the communist rebels were able to agree on 3 issues during the first round of talks: the affirmation of previously signed agreements, reconstitution of the Joint Agreement on Safety and Immunity Guarantees list, and the accelerated process for negotiations, including the timeline for the completion of the remaining substantive agenda for the talks, which are socio-economic reforms, political and economic reforms, and end of hostilities and disposition of forces, including the Joint Monitoring Committee. On August 26, the administration achieved a breakthrough when both parties agreed to implement a unilateral and indefinite ceasefire, something that has never been achieved before. The second round of peace talks successfully took place on October 7, 2016 in Oslo, Norway, with Presidential Peace Advisor Silvestre Bello hoping that a formal agreement on an indefinite joint ceasefire will be drafted. On January 25, the third round of talks resumed in Rome, but it ended with no permanent ceasefire deal, as what was hoped in the previous round. The fourth round of talks were completed on April 6, with both parties successfully signing an agreement to forge a joint ceasefire. which brought a truce between the government troops and the NPA. However, the joint ceasefire agreement did not address the collection of revolutionary taxes by the NPA, an act earlier condemned by President Rodrigo Duterte. The fourth meeting at the negotiating table in the Netherlands marked the last face-off between the two parties before President Rodrigo Duterte delivers his second State of the Nation address. The fifth round of talks were supposed to take place on May 27 until June 1. However, the government boycotted the scheduled negotiations after NPA members launched upscale offensive attacks throughout the country. Peace talks with the rebels were overshadowed on May 23, when local terror group Maute allied with Islamic State to establish a provincial hub for the foreign extremists. Muslim rebel groups Moro National Liberation Front and Moro Islamic Liberation Front have offered to help in the ongoing crisis. This offer is amid the ongoing peace talks with the Philippine government. One of the solutions President Duterte sees in ending the conflict in his birthplace is the Bangsamoro Basic Law.
I promise the Moro people of Mindanao that you will have it during my time.
Early in his campaign, President Duterte expressed the possibility of signing the BBL, which is included in the administration's plan to federalize the whole country. The BBL, which was signed in 2014, aims to put an end to the decades-long conflict in Mindanao, as it would provide the Moros ground to establish a new and autonomous Bangsamoro region. However, peace talks were derailed in 2015, when a bloody clash between elite police forces and Moro rebels took place in Mamasapano, Maguindanao province. When President Duterte assumed office, the Bangsamoro Transition Commission was crafted, a body that would draft the law which will replace the autonomous region of Muslim Mindanao with a more inclusive Bangsamoro. The BBL also aims to unite the feuding MNLF and the MILF. The MILF was formerly a part of MNLF before splitting in 1984. Peace agreements started as early as the 90s. Years later, the Muslim rebels and the government are still trying to find amicable ways to establish a long-lasting truce. President Duterte is set to review the newly revised BBL on July 10, 2017, that will hopefully pave the way for Muslim rebels to arrive at a long-awaited truce with the government. One of the main goals of this administration is to achieve long-lasting peace with opposing groups, a feat not achieved by previous administrations. For GNN, the Global News Network, this is Crissy Dimatulac.